I guess we can start. So you had some issues with the spec.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me because it's raining heavily over here.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay. There is an issue because on execution API, if you run the spell check, it throws an error, which kind of like whenever a PR is being put up on execution API, the CI fails because of that. And that was because we have like we are supposed to have a type, not an array, so that's causing like a problem. And I have a question. I don't know if it is a hard rule, but if it's possible for us to modify the schema itself by including both an object and an array, it should be okay. I don't know if it is a hard rule. If it is a hard rule, maybe that wouldn't be the better option. It's kind of like to modify the test itself.
Is the issue that the log state calls is an array, and I don't know why it couldn't be an array, why it has to be an object?
I don't know if I can.
Can you share a link to the line of code in GitHub? That's the problem. Or the line of the spec.
Okay, you can actually, I can link the PR that it's blocking, but for you to actually see it, you need to like run spec check on execution API repo.
The PR is fine. Yeah, the PR is fine. I can go look at the GitHub action.
Okay.
Were these checks added to the repo afterwards it was merged, since there was no errors when it was merged? So I don't know if these are new checks, and now the new checks detected this kind of issue.
The thing is, from the RPC test gen, it doesn't develop an issue, but from the execution API side, it gives out an error.
Okay, so it's not in the execution spec GitHub, but the error is raised in somewhere else.
Yes, because the two repos are kind of talking to each other, because whatever test that is generated from the RPC test gen, it's get transferred as a .io file to execution API. Okay. That's the PR. You can check the CI file. I don't know if it's possible for me to share my screen. Hold on.
This error is painful to read.
Yes, and it's long. That's another thing. The test has like several batch tests to it. Can I share my screen?
Should be able to.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to share. Okay.
It doesn't give a line number. That's frustrating.
No. Yeah. But it's the what's it called? I think I shared the line on Telegram for something.
I mean, the line of the spec that's the problem, not the line of the code that threw the error.
Oh, okay. Can you see my screen? That is the error.
Yes, we can see your screen.
But this looks like error in the test cases, not in the spec. That you are running a test case that we have, and not an kind of spec, and there can be tests that are kind of not valid in spec.
No, it's not like the test is bad. The thing is that the repo is expecting a type, but an array is being given out. So that's a problem. The test is okay. So we need to kind of like modify the schema itself, if it is not a hard rule, to include both a type and an object and an array.
Do you know where specifically in the spec there's an issue? Like in the
Let me
JSON.
Look at it here.
Yeah, that looks like a test case. I agree with Kalari. Why do you think this is not an issue with the test case? Also, where are those test cases defined?
Those
The
are not
test is
defined
a generator. Oh.
Oh, I see. It's failing on the very first one, suggesting that maybe it's just would fail on all of them.
Do you understand it now?
Not fully.
I also don't completely understand what's the issue. Since that's clearly one test case, and the test case is failing, but I don't know if it's because of the test case is bad or because the spec is bad.
Maybe it's saying that the test doesn't match the spec.
No, what is happening? The problem is that we are calling multiple block state calls and then binding them into a response. Like it's coming out is into a slice. That's the problem. It's not that the test case is bad. The spec itself requires we have to, like, the JSON array in our result of JSON outputs, it's supposed to be a type and not an array. That's where the issue is coming from.
So I'm still confused. What is spitting out? What? So we have a spec in JSON in the repository, and then when someone makes a change, CI runs and it executes some tests. One of those tests is failing with an error, and that's the test, the one you listed. And
yes,
the test, looking at the test is literally just two JSON objects, right? I'm guessing an input and an output.
yes.
Okay, and so do we know, is it the input? The input is what we're putting in. The output presumably is what we expect to get out, and as long as what we get out matches that, then the test passes. If what we get out doesn't match, it fails. The failure is the failure on parsing the input, or is it on comparing the output?
The failure is that it's evaluating the expected object type that is supposed to give out.
Okay, so
the schema itself doesn't accept an array.
It's looking at the output. So it took this input JSON, it fed it into whatever, and it's then the test then gives an output out, and then the test harness is trying to parse that output, and that's where it's failing. I'm trying to figure out if it's failing on parsing the input or failing on parsing the output.
The output.
Okay, so it's failing on parsing the output, and I think that what Kalari is saying is that these tests, we shouldn't expect them to have valid output. Is that right, Kalari?
Well, some of the tests might not have, I don't know, especially which ones. Well, the output should be always valid because it can be also error, and the error should be valid. So I think there should be always a valid specs. I think the inputs might not always be valid because I want to test what happens on the invalid inputs.
Okay, so Mercy, you're saying that the expected output for this test, which I've got in front of me, doesn't match what the spec says the output should be shaped like. Is that correct?
Yes, it should be a type, but we're having like several slices, which is giving out an array. That's just the problem.
Hang on. What do you mean it should be a type? It should be an object that has JSON RPC, ID, result. The result is an array of objects. Those objects have properties. Which part of that do you think is wrong?
Okay. Our array looks like it's a type and an object, but the result we're getting out, the output we're getting out is an array, not an object. So we need to like modify the schema itself to contain the both of them in cases where we have object and array, so that these kind of cases can repeat itself.
Why do you think that a array is not allowed here? Where in the repo here is the actual spec? Source schema?
It's here.
Do you know, Glory? Where? I'm looking at the execution APIs repo. Where is the actual
source Ethereum execute? I shared the link, and it executed. It's the last method defined in that execution YAML. And then the result is an object that it's the estimate result object.
And where do I find those components that it points at?
I think they're in the schemas.
Under schemas? Where under schemas?
I think schemas execute. Yeah, under schemas execute, there's the simulate results, which it's an object. And I don't remember what the simulate.
Okay, so I think I'm finally catching up here. So we have the result should be an ETH simulate result, and then an ETH simulate result is defined as an object, but the thing that we have in the test is an array. Okay.
Yes.
So it does seem like. So why is the result an array here? Which one's correct? Is the first question.
Okay, but that is why I don't know the reason behind the array and the type. I don't know if it's a hard rule or not. So that's why I brought it to you guys, because.
So, Glory, which should we expect arrays responses from these? I think the answer is yes, right? We get one object per block. That's what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing an array of blocks. And if I look for the number 2E, 2F, yeah, it's just giving me an array of blocks back. So the result object is not, in fact, an object as the schema suggests, which is what Mercy is explaining.
Oh yeah, it should be object on array because it's invalid. Then it should be an object. If it's a success, then it should be an array. I guess that's the issue, yeah. I don't know how that should be marked in the YAML.
Yeah, so the type though of the ETH simulate result is object.
Yeah.
It's not array or object.
But the ETH simulate result is an object or array.
With no discriminant. How did this not come up during implementation and testing? I would have thought someone would have complained about this.
Because they're using probably what get replies and not using the spec itself. And then Sina has implemented the get kind of according to spec, but not exactly like the spec. And I think that's the issue with these YAML things.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm working on.
What is the actual thing that Geth returns? Does it return an object that has like two properties on it, one of which is success or failure, and one is the like data, or is it literally just like, is this a discriminated union or is this a non-discriminated union? Is there something that someone who receives this could switch on? Like as a user, why? Like you implement this as a user, that's where I'm confused, I guess, is because I would have imagined this would have been super annoying to actually implement. Because you get back do you just like check is array? and that's how you determine if it's an error.
Giving you an example. Like here's two cases, the other where it's successful and it returns result, and then I just remove everything from the result, or it returns an error, and then there's an error object.
I see. Okay, that's totally fine. Just the YAML is incorrect here. I understand now. So this YAML should be, let's see, just looking through this. So the schema for the result is not an object. It's a one of. No, sorry, that's not correct. The schema for the result.
Yeah, I don't know how to set the mark to the YAML.
Yeah, so ETH simulate v1 result. Yeah, so okay, ETH simulate result is an object, and it is an object that has yeah, you're missing a level here. So there's ETH simulate result is an object. That object is a union of two different objects. One of those objects is an object that has the word result, and that property is an array. Another one is an object that has a property called message, which is an object, or sorry, it's just string. Or sorry, is an object. Yeah, sorry. One of the two objects in the union has a single property called result, and that type of that property is an array. The other object in that union has a single property called error, and the type of that property is an object. And what we have here is we don't have that. So we don't have that intermediate object that has either a result property or an error property. That's the piece we're missing. And so I think what we need to do is we need to change. So ETH simulate result. I'm looking at the schema and source schema. That's execute.yaml. ETH simulate result is an object. That's correct. But it's not a, and even one of is also correct, I think. ETH simulate block result success should be an object that has a single property on it called result. And that property is of type array. And then the ETH simulate block result invalid should also be an object with a single property on it, and that property is called error.
Oh, in fact, invalid
is correct. So all that's missing is ETH simulate block result success needs to be an object with a single property on it called result, and that property, then its type is an array of that property, not the type of the object. So yes, this is a good find, Mercy. The fix should be pretty simple. It's just an issue with the spec. Do you think you can take care of that, Kalari?
Yeah, I can. I just need to remind how the syntax works, like how.
Yeah, that's the hardest part is the YAML. I think we can basically just. I think you can just kind of copy the ETH simulate block result invalid for the most part. So title.
Then you have the reference.
Yeah, and so it's got a required property called error. That property error is then a type array, which then references your ETH simulate block result single success.
Yeah, I think I have it.
I might actually be able to do it right now that I'm already thinking about it, unless you've already done it.
I'm still looking at how to add the reference. But yeah, if you have it already, something like this, but then I don't know if the ref is correct. I always wonder how the syntax for ref works.
If you look at the withdraw right above it in the spec file, they're using references for their property values. And so you can do basically the same thing.
Yeah, then I think I guessed correctly. except there's a title that is missing. But the title
Yeah.
is not mandatory, I guess.
Probably wouldn't hurt to include it, even if it's not.
No.
No. Sorry. What you have is not quite correct. You have properties result. Result is an array. So the result will have a title and a type field. Type is array. And then I don't actually know how to define array types.
How do you make an array of
items.
references, I guess?
So you need an item. So you have type array and then items. Then if you go look at each simulate block result success, that is the syntax there is very close to what you need. Or it's got an items field. Sorry, this one that's broken, huh? But anyways, that's just basically you just need to nest that. So that type array is actually the type of the property called result on the object. You should be able to do this all within this one object.
But yeah, I can probably figure it out.
Okay, if you submit a PR, I can review it. Thank you for finding that, Mercy, and doing the troubleshooting to debug it. The fix should be very small and easy, and it should cause things to pass. I am curious, why did this fail now instead of when we submitted our PR before?
I think there's no test. Oh, there's Sanu.
I don't really know why. So, because I thought of the same thing, but I couldn't come up with any reason why it didn't happen before now. So
if you
was
don't know,
or something.
My guess is the way the CI is set up, the CI is incorrectly running against master. And so when you submit a PR, it's running the CI against master, not against the pull request. This is just like a configuration of the CI problem. And so you won't get an error until the next person submits a PR after the PR was merged. That's when you'll get the errors. This can happen if you, in your CI setup, you're like cloning a repo or something. You might accidentally clone the head instead of the PR. That's my best guess. If this failed on the first PR after ours, I suggest the CI is wrong. Which job was this? This was lint and check.
So if I submit a pull request, it doesn't fail until we merge the master?
No, so if you submit that pull request, it's going to fail as well, because the CI is testing against master. It's not testing against the pull request. That's my guess. Just based on the symptoms and my experience working with CI, that's the most likely thing I can think of that would cause this sort of thing. I'm checking right now.
Is it possible to like get Light's client on this? Because I think he's like the best person to.
He might know, yeah. So
yeah.
Just let him know that
he hardly responds to me.
Just let him know.
Watch him.
I mean, sure. If you want to mention him and me in a channel somewhere, are you in Discord? The ETH R&D? I know both him and I are in that one. So just maybe in the JSON RPC API. I can mention him actually. I keep saying other people should do things, and I'm already halfway done by the time I explain it.
I mean, if I make a pull request about it and then I'm not fully confident that if it works, then it's a bit annoying that I cannot test if the spec is correct.
Yeah, I'll mention him and I'll CC you on it.
Like maybe this is correct, but then I would like to test. Or is it result? Or... It's resulting.
What's your handle in Discord, Mercy?
Boma naps. BOMA then underscore naps.
Buma Naps.
Yeah.
Okay, I mentioned both you and Laurie and Jason RPC API.
Do you have anything else? We can continue on that Discord for this topic.
Yeah, we can continue on Discord. Let's see if Light Client has a good, quick, easy solution, or he knows. If not, we can YOLO and put your PR in and see if it fixes it after we merge.
Okay, I was thinking, hold on.
Yeah, I would prefer that Lightgrid would fix that issue, and then I make the pull request, and then I would see if it works or not, and then we merge. But
Wouldn't
How about
this
this?
be
Submit
like
the
a
pull
good
request,
idea?
and if the pull request fails for the same, I don't think that's allowed, and also that's not correct. The spec was wrong. You were correct. The spec is wrong here, and that was our mistake. It's supposed to be an object that has one of two properties. So it's a union of two objects. You can either have an object that has a result property on it, or you can have an object that has a error property on it. And the type of those respective properties are different. So the type of the error property is a string, and the type of the error property is an object. The type of the result property is an array. But the object can only have one of the two. It cannot have both. So it's either the error property or it's the result property. Again, this is just a mistake in the YAML.
Okay.
do we have anything else?
Nothing for me.
We'll talk to you next week and in the channel.
Yep.
See ya.
Okay. Thank you.
Later. Thanks, Mercy.
Good find.